Ragazzi, benvenuti. Welcome to this lesson. It's going to be quick and easy if technology is on my side. It usually is if I don't stream to Facebook, so I'm not going to stream to Facebook anymore. So, beginner lesson. I'm going to take questions from you guys, and we haven't prepared this, so you haven't sent me your questions in advance, and I'm not going to pull out my whiteboard and all my other things. As you can see, I'm already going green every now and then. So let's keep it simple, but you can see the chat here on the side. So that's going to also help when you watch the recording, if YouTube doesn't mess up the synchronization like it did last time. But that wasn't my fault. Okay, so how does it work? I'm going to ask you to send me your questions in the chat. If you can't see the chat, it's probably because you're on a mobile phone or a tablet and the chat appears somewhere below the video and then you can't see it. So I always recommend that you go and use a desktop computer to attend the live lessons. Anyway, questions. So it's a beginner lesson. So I'm going to take questions that I consider that you should be worrying about if you're a beginner. So I know that many of you are not complete beginners, that's fine, but keep your questions to the basics of things that you may be studying for the past 3 months and you're struggling with, like articles, basic conjugation, stuff like that. Don't ask me things that are beyond beginner because I'm not going to answer them in this video, but I'm going to answer them when I make a Q&A for intermediate level or for advanced level. So don't worry, your time is coming. But today we're trying to help people who have just started out with Italian and they're having a little bit of maybe just a question, maybe it's not a problem, it's just like a little question. So send your questions through. I'm going to have a look. Now, if you don't know whether your question is for beginner or not, I will tell you. For example, I just saw that you have problems with cui. Cui is a upper intermediate thing. You shouldn't worry about it. Okay, so as a beginner, you don't want to worry about cui. It's not difficult, but it's not something that you should be worrying about as a beginner. Okay, I like that one. So, friend Norris, the verb incontrare means to meet, but I've also heard conoscere as well. So yes, incontrare has two meanings. It depends on the tense you're using it. So as a beginner, you don't know the past tense, which is fine. But that's when incontrare significa, how should I say it? Okay, I keep mixing Italian and English because I'm so tired. It's quite late here. Sorry, we're talking about meet, not incontrare. That's right. So it depends whether you're meeting for the first time. In that case, it's conoscere. You make the acquaintance of somebody. So if you're meeting for the first time, like, you and I, we met 2 years ago, that's meeting for the first time. Then it's conoscere. But it's usually in the past tense. So as a beginner, you're not going to do that. Whereas if you're meeting as in catching up, I'll meet you at 5, then it's incontrare. Okay, so that's the main distinction. Meeting for the first time, conoscere, which means to know, and meeting as in catching up, then it's incontrare. Okay, perfetto. Allora, what's the difference between tu, te, and ti? That's a great, not only beginner question, but I can see the confusion. So in Italian, those 3 words, they don't look in English you don't say it because you is always you, but think of he and him, she and her. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. So tu is the subject. So whenever you have a verb and you're saying you are doing that verb, then you're going to say tu. Tu parli italiano, tu mangi la pizza, tu dormi, tu studi. So whatever verb you're using about you, as in the person you're talking to, you're going to use tu. Now, in reality, in Italian, we don't need to say tu when we are conjugating when we're speaking. So even though it means you, we can drop it. So parli italiano, that means you speak Italian. But if you need to say you, then you're going to say tu. Now, te is basically whenever I mean you, but not as the subject, usually after a preposition. So, for example, I'm talking with you. Parlo con te. I'm speaking with you. Or, for example, another example could be vengo al cinema con te. I'm coming to the cinema with you. So whenever you have the concept of you after a preposition, you're going to use te. Stop the questions because I'm not looking. Sorry, I'm not looking. Okay. Because I'm looking at the camera. So what else? The T is, I know it's difficult, but it's whenever I'm talking about you as the object of a verb. What does that mean? So if I say I see you, I is the subject, see is the verb, and you is the thing that I see. So even though in English it's two and two, it's you and you, like I see you or you see me, you doesn't change because you is like that. But think of he and him. So he sees me, I see him. So they're different words. That's what tu and ti are. When you're talking about the object, so when you is the object of the verb, then we're going to use ti and we're going to put it before the verb. So ti parlo, I'm speaking to you. Ti vedo, I see you. Ti conosco, I know you. So ti is not the subject. You can't say ti parli italiano. That's wrong. Okay, so Angela, you having trouble developing a sentence? Go to italymedeasy.com/live and you will find the calendar of the upcoming live lessons, and there's one scheduled for Saturday or Sunday, and it's precisely about that, how to help a beginner form sentences. So that's what we're going to talk about on Saturday or Sunday. Just check on the calendar. Okay, let me just go up with the questions. Oh, I didn't miss that many. Okay. Jane, how to say fit, fitter, and the fittest? That's a little bit beyond the scope of a beginner lesson for today. That's a little bit complicated, so we're not going to talk about it, but bring back that question on when we do a Q&A for intermediate students. Ok, Milan, come si parla a lei? Per esempio, quando vorrei parlare con l'insegnante. Ok, so this is a topic that it's a little confusing for anybody really approaching Italian because you don't have this in English. You have it in other languages, like you have it in Spanish, Portuguese, French, German, in different concepts. But the idea of being formal when we're speaking to somebody. Now in English, the only way you can do it is by using nicer words. You know, good morning, sir. That's how you're polite in English. But we don't really change the grammar. Whereas in Italian, we do. So when we are casual, when we are friends with somebody, or we are family, or the other person is a child or an animal, we can use tu. So tu and the verb that goes with tu is only used for family and friends. Anybody else, if you're a grown-up, you should be talking to them as lei. Now lei means she as well, but not in this case. If I'm talking to you and I look at you, you could be a man or a woman. If I say lei, I mean you sir or you ma'am. So the implication of using lei is that you have to use the verb that it's the third person, which is you have to use the verb that you would use for he and she, really. So if you hear lei parla italiano and I'm looking that way, then that means she speaks Italian because I'm talking about somebody over there, she. But if I'm looking at you and I say lei parla italiano, I'm clearly asking you a question. So that means, do you speak Italian? I'm just being formal. So you have to address your teacher as lei. I'll tell you, it's a little bit of a tricky thing because you could offend people, and people do get offended if you don't use the right pronoun with them. The idea is this, keeping it simple. it's about age and it's about social status. So if you're speaking to somebody that you assume to be older, you have to be formal to that person. They can choose to be casual, but you cannot be casual just because they were casual to you because they're older than you. Social status, teacher, student. Student has to be formal to the teacher. Doctor, patient. Here, age doesn't even count. Doctor could be younger than you, but in that context, doctor is higher than you socially. So there's a lot of nuances, but basically, as grown-ups, we're going to be formal unless we are friends, unless you're being introduced to a friend of a friend, or it's a very casual context like a party. In that case, you can be casual, but any other time, you should be formal. So don't say ciao to people you don't know. You can say ciao to me if you don't know me, doesn't matter. Okay, why is it necessary to begin a sentence with a? Okay, Joy, this one is a little advanced, but I'll tell you what it is. So why is it necessary to begin some sentences with a? Per esempio, a cosa sei vicino? In English, basically, in English, you have a preposition that you can put at the end of a sentence. For example, who are you talking with? What are you looking at? Okay, what are you thinking about? In Italian, you cannot end a sentence with a preposition. You have to put the preposition before the whole thing. So that's what your sentence is. To what are you near? As in, you're near to what? So, you know, English and Italian are different languages, so they're not going to match all the time. But you see what I'm saying? So if in English, I would say, who are you going out with? In Italian, I have to say, with whom are you going out? Which is, con chi esci? So the sentence would start with con. Now, in your case, your sentence starts with a because you are near to something in Italian. Whereas in English, you're near something. So you don't have the preposition in English. That's why maybe it's confusing. Okay, oh my God. Così tante domande, so many questions. Come si dice at in italiano, as in an email address? Beautiful question, I love this one, and I'm going to type it. Si dice chiocciola. Chiocciola. It actually means snail. It's one of the words for snail. So, chiocciola. Quindi il mio indirizzo è manu@italimedisi.com. Ok. Pensando straniero, how do we use the word più? I never understand. Okay, più. Più means more. So you're gonna use it when you are trying to say more, I don't know, more intelligent, più intelligente. Now, the one thing that it doesn't work the same as English, in English, if the word is short, you're going to attach ER. So quicker, you're not going to say more quick. But in Italian, it's the same concept. So it's going to be più veloce, più piano, più alto, più bello. Okay. What confuses intermediate and advanced students is actually when to say di più and when to say più. It's a little tricky. But di più is when you want more of a verb. So, per esempio, devi studiare di più. You must study more because you have to study more you have to do more of a verb, not of a thing. So that's not beginner. Let's not confuse people here. Okay. Wow, so many questions. I'm having so much fun. I was falling asleep and now I'm awake. Grazie mille, ragazzi. If I don't get to your question today, come back to, soon we'll do a intermediate lesson and you can ask these questions again. Chiocciola, vediamo un po'. what's the difference between li and la? I think, who was it? Mary, you mean li and la with the accent on it. I actually have already answered this one, but I don't remember when. But there is no difference in the meaning. Li and la mean over there. So I'm gonna say, mangiamo li, shall we eat there? Or mangiamo la, shall we eat there? It's the same thing. So there's no difference. Ok, vediamo un po'. And Jane, difference between qui and qua, same thing. Qui and qua, they both mean here or over here, and you can use either one, whichever sounds good to you in that moment. Bene. Perfetto. And finally, I'm going to answer one more question. Grazie, Joy. Voi siete il massimo. You're the best. Okay. How to build vocabulary fast. Now, actually, I'm going to do a live lesson next week on this topic. But basically, quickly, I would say start finding out words that are similar between English and Italian. These are words that in English come from Latin. So these are words that are usually longer and have a lot of syllables. For example, before I said intelligent, then it's a long word. Smart would be the Germanic equivalent. I'm sorry if this is too much, but find those words and figure out how they are in Italian. So intelligent, intelligente. Then find out a pattern. For example, every time you have a word that ends with shon or sion in English, it's going to end with sione in Italian. So station, stazione, attention, attenzione. So you're expanding already very quickly. And then what I would do is find an app that works for you. I have fun with Quizlet, but as a beginner, I would probably recommend Memrise. Memrise, don't get me started with apps, but I honestly think that Memrise can really help you build vocabulary because it's got a lot of games and it really works. Look it up. I'm going to type it so that you can find it. Memrise, spelled with an S. Okay, Memrise. Because I like Memrise because it doesn't have the pretense of teaching you Italian or any language. It teaches you vocabulary and it does it really well. Other apps, they have this pretense that are going to teach you Italian and then you end up being disappointed. So anyway. Ok ragazzi. Perfetto, grazie mille per essere venuti. Thanks for coming. Let me see. Yeah, no, perfetto. Perfetto, ok. Basta per oggi. Cerchiamo, always trying to keep these lessons under 15 minutes, so they're short and sweet. Now, whenever this becomes a video, if YouTube doesn't stuff up the synchronization, you will be able to still see the conversation on the side. So I think that's a good idea. And hopefully technology will be on my side next time. Grazie mille ragazzi. Go to italymedici.com. I don't have my buttons, but do subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. But you are because you are here live, which means you were notified. If you are subscribed and you're not getting the notifications, actually, I explain how to get them at italymedici.com/live.